Your combat's garbage. You want to fight about it? Is your character in the middle of an altercation? How do they feel about it? Are they killing the pacing in order to try to harm a foe? We are kidding. Your combat is probably not garbage. Probably. No, we're just playing. But there is a way to kind of address certain aspects of combat fighting in order to keep the pacing and the general feel of the scene appropriately, and we're going to be discussing what we like about common advice and what we don't like about common advice on this episode of Attack on Table. All right, Ryan, what are we really getting into the nitty-gritty about today?
Yeah, we're talking about fisticuffs, the punches, the kicks, the barroom brawls, all the stuff that make your book stand out and fun to read. So, what is it that you hate the most about the way people that you've noticed when you're reading, like how they write fight scenes? What's sticking in your craw?
Well, the thing that really grinds my gears is when it's, I don't want to say obvious that a character that an author's never been in a fight before or anything like that, but it's when a character is thinking long, complex thoughts in the middle of a fight with no regard to, the pace at which the blows are being struck or counter blows guards, what have you. It kills the pacing. It steals away from the fast-paced excitement, even anxiety of the moment. And I get that you want to convey that your character's a smart combatant, but it is, for me, it really pulls me out of the story, as far as acknowledging the realism. What do you hate about it?
I mean, there's a plethora of things I think people make like mistakes in regard. I do want, before I get into my thing, like you said, like you essentially hate when the thought process comes to the forefront before the action. You're not talking about the competency of the fighter. You're just talking about like acting as though time has frozen still so that I can elucidate all my thinking in that time frame. That pulls you out of it, right? That's what you're kind of talking about.
Yes, and yes in a different way. Like I that was what I was specifically talking about, is like having long, drawn out and complex thoughts during it. But as far as like even just the, what did you say, competency of the,
Yeah.
as
Like you're
far,
not talking about like I hate when the person I'm reading about like knows what they're doing. You just hate the drawn out nature that the writer is using to describe that stuff.
yeah, as far as the competency of the fighter goes and everything, you can have those thoughts to a degree, but you should not be doing it in the middle of the fight. I think that would have the same effect as far as like pulling me out of the realism of the scene itself. Why? Which one do you hate?
So I don't have a problem with the competency kind of being explained. I think there's like kind of like all things when it comes to writing, there's a way to do it. I'm not saying I know the way. I'm saying that there's a balance to that stuff, and you need, when you're writing it, you need to be kind of looking for that balance. A good example for me is like I hate when writers don't use like sharp sentences. Like they use long explanational sentences for what is essentially a quick action, and by doing that, it diminishes the quickness of the action. Because like the shorter a sentence, as a reader is concerned, the shorter the sentence, the faster the action. And so if you're having this, 16, 17, 20 word sentence for a punch or a kick, you're putting way too much into it, and it reads slow. So, they might as well be kicking as slow as it takes for the reader to actually read the sentence. Brandon Sanderson brings up a great way of saying that there's only so many ways that you can eloquently describe a kick or a punch. So sometimes it's better just to say kick, punch, block, and move on.
Sure, and if your character is a competent person, there are names for certain kicks and other techniques that you would use if this is a hand-to-hand combat type scenario, which is just kind of what is in the forefront of my mind right now while we're talking about this. You don't inherently, by just giving the name of it, you don't inherently lengthen the sentence. So I'm not saying don't use the name of the technique that one of the characters is using, but as far as like if one character's got another in a headlock and your character's thinking, he may think he has me in this whatever the name is hold, but while he strikes my face, I'm preparing to sweep my right leg behind his left leg. It's like standing on the brake pedal, when really you could write, he sweep the leg.
Yeah, I think that kind of brings it to the point of like, when you're in a fight, I mean, for sense of realism, when you're in a fight, you're not necessarily thinking elegant thoughts. You're thinking almost instantaneous. So it's like you kind of have to write in that concept. I do have piece of advice I'm going to hold on to until we get to that part, regarding kind of like what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
I will say it is a shame, from what I understand, a great deal of readers actually just skip action scenes. I don't know why. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah. I shame all of you. Feel my shame. The writer took a great deal of time to put it in there. You should at least give it a perusal.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's because so many fight scenes, just for lack of a better word, got handled poorly. Maybe those readers just might have gave up on them, and if those readers had given up on it in whatever audience that you're writing to, maybe you gave up on writing them. But either way, in all seriousness and booze and shame aside, there's a way to address the action other than just glazing by it and saying something as simple as they fought. Because at that point, you're almost hitting it's like fast forwarding, and that is as much of a disruption of the pace as over describing the motions made by all characters involved. So I really personally advise against skipping either reading or writing them. There's got to be something important, and Ryan, you had feelings about, for people who skip it, if the writer put it in the story, then they must believe it is important to the reader, wouldn't you say?
Well, important, I think, is a subjective term. I think if the writer put it in there, then they did so with the hope that they did a good job, and you should at least, in my opinion, I'm not trying to tell people how to read, but I do think you should at least try it and see if it's something that maybe they did have a weakness in before, and now maybe in their last book it was weak. In this book, it's a good attempt. Maybe they're getting better. They're not going to know if people are just skipping those things. Like I said, like a chef can't get better if someone's not tasting their food. So,
and remarking on it, which
yeah,
is,
I guess, is the more important fact. Yeah,
except for psychic chefs. and psychic authors.
And they just know.
They just know. But if you're not psychic and you want to pay attention to some of the, things that we're talking about here as far as like trying to get fight scenes, combat that your readers think is worth reviewing, I would say find it. Almost any bit of advice that you're going to get from us throughout all of this series is, in any particular topic, is find the right balance and read through the entire scene, not just the fight scene, once you get done writing it, and make sure that it all feels like a relatively even flow, or if the fight is speeding things up, make sure it's not whiplash and then a dead stop. Because if you've ever seen what doing stuff like that does to crash test dummies, it's not great. And you don't want to do that to your reader's brain.
Yeah, and I think there's a tempo in fight scenes that kind of needs to find a satisfying conclusion. Otherwise, it just feels like everything went back to normal.
Yes.
And so that's something that's kind of a little bit a step beyond the combat that we're talking about, but it is something to keep an eye on. Most common advice I think we've seen is keep it fast paced, which again, I don't know exactly what people mean by that because they don't really do a great job of explaining like what creates fast pace. And I think I mentioned it before, one good key indicator is shorter sentences, more impactful sentences will keep your pacing fast, or at least it will in the reader's mind that things are happening quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback on that to say like there's two things that are happening in the fight: your next move and what just happened to you, or if you're writing first tense, what or present tense, what is happening to you right now, or your character, or whatever point of view you're taking. But those two things in the middle of an exchange of blows is going to be the only thing that your characters perceive. It's going to be the only thing that the reader really needs to know about, and it should be delivered quickly if the fighting is paced that way. If you have two guys who are exchanging punches one per minute, then yeah, you can take some time and give the character room to think. I guess we should have prefaced with that. It right at the pacing of the fight itself, and there are different types of combat. There's, sanctioned, non-lethal combat. There are times where you're getting jumped in front of a dark alleyway. There's war scenes, and you're gonna have to use the reference of your scene to find out what kind of a pace the personal combat is going to be following.
Yeah, I would go so far as to add on that and say that the protagonist of your fight scene can also determine that stuff. Excuse me, because if you're an untrained person, a fight in reality is going to feel like a whirlwind. It doesn't matter if it's just you and another person or several people. It's going to feel like a blink of an eye. You're going to be foggy on things that happen. You're probably going to exaggerate a few things. For a trained person who's trained to keep a cognizant mindset in the face of great adversity and danger, you might have room for a little bit more thinking and tactical thought than a normal person. But you got to find the balance in that.
That thought should be quick. It's going to have to be, which is where that balance lies. And yeah, I agree with you 100% there that, depending on how experienced the person is, one thing that I think should be in every fight scene that is, true blue violence is going to be like your character should have some level of fear or anxiety, because fights hurt. They do not feel good. And if you've never been in one, that's fine. Like, you can still write it the way that it needs to feel, but it kind of leads us into one of the other bits of common advice, which is the clarity over the chaos. and strong descriptors is one that we came across when we were looking for generic and or common advice, and I do not like that at all. I know what it's trying to say, but depending on the kind of fight or combat scene that you're writing, there is going to be some element of chaos to it, and you should write it as such. And you don't need to always have the strong descriptors. Sometimes you're not being hit from a place you can see. So how does it not break immersion for you to waste time describing? Like,
Yeah, I think the problem that you and I share with that is it's just another one of those 3-word, nicely packaged pieces of advice that kind of muddies the thought process a little bit. I think it should, it again, depending on your protagonist in the fight, clarity comes with experience, and whether or not they're trained. An untrained person, it should be chaotic. It should be like, I got hit by 10,000 punches when I'm fighting one guy and he just happened to get me on the ground, and now it feels like I'm sinking into the sand, so to speak.
now my elbow goes this way.
Yeah. Whereas a trained person might have more awareness of their surroundings, what's actually happening, how to combat those things. And I think in those instances, like we were talking about before, the best way to convey competency in a fight without having these long winded anime style, time has frozen, let me think for 30 minutes out loud kind of speeches, is just having strong descriptors in that, where it's just like, this is what's happening, this is my next step, and then allow things to move on. And the more I think as a reader you feel like this guy knows what he's doing, the more buy-in you have. So another key for me, not to continue to ramble, but for me, the thing I hate is those chosen one stories where it's like, oh, this kid from Minneapolis found out that he's got like the strength of a god, and suddenly he is just a brilliant tactician. In the instance where he needs it, he has all the abilities and skills, and it's just like, that pulls me out of it way more. I'm just like, how about we take some time to just show him showing these things, that he has these abilities, except for the exact very moment where he would need them the most.
Right.
Why can't we just full display?
We're going to talk about Mary Sue's. Believe me. But not today.
Yeah. No.
So, you were real big on using the punchy words, and we've talked about that. And I think that has a lot to do with clarity of the action itself rather than how a third party would describe the action. So I would say that that's where the clarity in Clarity Over Chaos should be focused on. If you do want to have a tactical sort of thought process, you should really do it before the fight, or if your character loses, they could do it after the fight, because hindsight's always 20/20.
If I were to be so brave, Sean, and just say this is Fitz of Writing's piece of advice change,
be careful.
Instead of Clarity Over Chaos, I think you and I can both agree it should be Clarity of Chaos.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, I think that makes far more fucking sense.
Yeah, I knew you would. And I think the only other thing was like, use some jargon, but not too much.
Well, that's actually that's one of the points that came to me as we were talking earlier. Is you were talking about, like, if you're a martial artist, and a lot of martial arts strikes have names and stuff, and it's good to just use the name. I would go so far as to say, if you're going to use something with an exotic name, outside of something as simple as like a hook kick, which by its description of the term, you kind of imagine what the kick is.
Yeah.
But if it has like some crazy, twisting twin falcon bird strike or something, whatever, that's fine. Right. But I would go so far as to kind of set that scene of like your character practicing such maneuvers beforehand so that you have the time to describe what is actually taking place, and then when the fight scene happens you can just throw it out there without having to describe it.
Right. You don't want to have your character thinking, God, he's hit me with the Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix 7 times.
Yeah. Yeah, all 7 books. Just yeah. I think jargon in those instances can be appropriate because it can help quicken the pace if you've taken the time to establish what the jargon is, especially if you're speaking military stuff and your audience is not primarily military people. They might need to know some inside baseball, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked this out pretty thoroughly. I know we were talking earlier about separating action from combat, and we might, have a conversation about action scenes outside of just normal fist to fist face punching.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
so I do have something I want to lead into, but before I do that, I think you had a quick announcement for everybody.
I just wanted to do a quick reminder about the incredible contest. The final prize being the winner will get 30,000 words or half the book, whichever one comes first, edited by Kimberly Huther, who is a editor and proofreader with several best-selling novels under her belt. It's a pretty awesome opportunity we had to be able to work with her to give that out for anybody who's in that general place. Quick reminder, we do want you to have at least gone through 2 runs of editing prior to submission. We know that we're not talking to a giant pool of people about that just yet, but share this video out with anybody that you know, any of your author friends. The submission guidelines are simple. We just want to take a look at a chapter that you're writing, your first chapter, it was? Or just a chapter?
Nope, first chapter.
Chapter 1. Chapter 1, send it to fitzofwriting@gmail.com. You'll find that a clickable domain link in the video description. But you said we got a Dear Duncan email, didn't you, Ryan?
Yes, and for those that don't know, Dear Duncan is just our way of kind of feeding back into the community, offering assistance where we can. We invite you guys, if you have problems or you're stuck with something or just kind of want to know, like, hey, what's a step I can do? Whatever your question may be, you can submit it to us. You can request a submission form for the Dear Duncans, and we'll send it to you. I do have one here. Let's go ahead and go into our Dear Duncan studio. With the power of the internet, we have a nice new overlay, and we can thank our friends at NJC Printing for that. Again, if you guys like the overlays you're seeing, they do a lot of print work. They can help you with your posters for book signings and stuff like that. Their link, their website should be down in the description.
And don't
so let me
forget,
go ahead.
No, you be quiet. Don't forget, hit the like if you want Ryan to keep acting surprised that we have a new overlay every time we do one of these.
Or hit the like if you don't.
Mm-mm.
We'll know which one. When you click like, we'll know which one is in your heart.
I like mine better. I'm editing you out.
Okay.
On to the Dear Duncan.
On to the Dear Duncan. This was submitted anonymously. We do take those for those people that don't want to show up on the screen, but we also welcome that you do submit and come onto the show and talk to us. That way we can get a little bit more, what'd you call it, like background on the problem.
Well, I like the ability just to ask some questions and get some context if I don't understand some elements of what the person's asking before we do this. But since that did not happen this time either, go ahead and let's see what we can do for you.
All right. Dear Duncan, I can't stop tinkering Every sentence I write feels almost right, but not quite. So I polish it again and again until the energy drains out and I can't remember what I liked about it in the first place. Friends tell me the piece is finished, but I keep hearing a quieter, nagging voice that says, "Not yet, you can make it better." At this point, I've spent more time adjusting commas than actually telling the story. How do I know when revision is serving the work or when it's just fear dressed up as perfectionism? I feel personally attacked by this question.
And you
This
should.
is something I suffer with. Yeah, I suffer from this. I understand the plight. I'm going to have to take a second to sit on it. Sean, how would you help? What advice would you offer this person as well as myself?
I'm gonna steal from your playbook on the last one of these we did. I would say you're clearly already letting some people that you know read the story, um, and get back to you. And if I'm right, and they're people who are close to you, who know how you talk, who know how you think, and can follow along with a general logic that they have from just experiencing you in life, you would be better served probably going to find searching online in any forum on social media. You can find groups of beta readers who will take a look at things and let you know if it feels like it needs another polish, if there's anything undone that needs to be tidied up. I From having talked for years with Ryan before starting this venture, uh know secondhand the issues that you can feel with wanting to make sure that you're just putting the best thing out there that you can possibly create. But I don't want you to fall into a feedback loop of never feeling like you're already there, or never feeling like you've reached the finish line. Perfection is unattainable for a reason, and that reason is it would take forever to get there. So if you want to be a published
Yeah,
author, get it out there.
yeah. I think sadly, man, this is going to be hard for me to say out loud. This feels like an intervention at this point. I think. I
It was
think.
me.
You son of. I think. Now I don't. Now I'm doubting. I think Sean did send this in
I
to
didn't.
get to me.
Scout's honor.
I think that you have to kind of trust what your people are saying. Maybe it might be because, like, for me, it's hard if I'm sending this to friends and family and they're like, "Oh, this is great, you're done." I think it's hard to accept that because you feel like they're just being nice and you're needing a outside third party opinion. Well, go get it. Go get that. Go, like Sean said, get a beta reader. Um, even certain content editors like Kimberly Huther might be able to offer you a little bit of insight in that regard. You could also just let it go. Whew, that let me just wipe my own tear away. You could just let it go. Whatever it is that's haunting you with this, because you can't put a name to it, just let it go. Try to address it in your next project. Whatever it is in this, if you can't put a name to it, that means you don't actually see it. You just feel like there's something off. But if you don't know what it is and you can't name it, you can't describe it, then it's probably non existent. And you're probably just beating yourself up, wanting to put out this perfect piece. And not every piece is perfect. I mean, even the Lord of the Rings has additions. The Hobbit has additions. There's many books that we have read throughout our history that we see as like iconic masterpieces that have additions. So there were mistakes made there. You're allowed to make your own. I would just say just pick a direction and move forward with it, and hope for the best in your next work.
Yeah, there's really no punishment for getting it out there. Trust me. Bleeding the Divine has additions. Because I caught something that somehow got by everything in the first go around. So yeah, don't feel bad about it. If you're not going to grow as a writer, and there's not going to be evidence of you growing as a writer throughout your journey, I'm just assuming that this is maybe one of the first or early stories that you're trying to get published. You're able to grow as a writer throughout your publishing journey too. Like, I'm sure that there's lots of folks out there who they may be very well known and very well regarded now, but their first book, maybe nobody talks about them. I'd like to.
And speaking of, you can find Bleeding the Divine on Amazon. Yeah. Buy it today. Support your local author. Support Sean.
Why would you call me local?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, shut up.
Support starving artists like Sean. This would be a great point for that, in the Arms of an Angel song to be kicking up behind us. We had the money for the rights of that. You can also find my short story, In Pursuit of Death, on Amazon. I'd love to see you guys get a copy of that and tell me your thoughts on it. Tell me what I need to fix in that. That'd be what I'd love to hear. But beyond that, if you guys like this show, if you want to support us and the authors we bring on, especially during our interviews, don't forget to reach out to us, comment, share. Is there any other piece of advice we can offer?
It is Thursday, so keep in mind, I'm not exactly... Hang on. It is Thursday. Keep in mind, 2 days ago, we made another post about this month's Tell a Tale contest, so please participate in that. If you are a writer if you want to throw your hat in the ring and see if you've got something you can put together for us, you might just wind up with a video all your own at the end of the month. Other than that, we're always going to be trying to grow this community, so everybody... If there's any bit of advice, either about the combat section or advice for this anonymous author, slap it down in the comments. And other than that, strike the like and subscribe.
Or semperscribe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that was good. I feel like we've talked a lot about again, I just want to press this. Sean and I don't know how... our advice is impacting you guys. If you find it useful, don't find it useful, let us know in the comments. How are we ending these?
Oh, like this.